Greetings from Tokyo, my dear friends. This is Daisuke, and I very much hope that this video finds you well and in very good spirits wherever you are in the world. And today, if you don't mind, I would very much like to carry on our continuing conversation with respect to those recent releases made by the Criterion collection during this year of 2020. And today, if you don't mind, I would like to focus our attention on that title, which has been designated Spine Number 1056 from 1987. The director is Norman Jewison, and the name of the film is Moonstruck. This is the film from 1987, and it is directed by Norman Jewison, and it is written by John Patrick Shanley. It stars Cher and Nicolas Cage and Danny Aiello, as well as Olympia Dukakis and Vincent Gardenia and others in this absolutely heartwarming, wonderful, charming, effervescent tale of modern city living, in particular this particular set of characters, this family living in New York, or specifically Brooklyn, New York. It is an Italian-American family, and it has many stories dealing with the various members of the family and their close inner circle, But perhaps at the center of the proceedings is the character of Loretta, played by Cher, in what is a really brilliant and well-grounded performance on the one hand, that also has great highs of emotion and triumph, much like a soprano in an opera. And in fact, there are many links to opera, as I'll get to momentarily. But at the center is her character, and we follow her and her situation, and we see that along the way she gets into certain romantic entanglements with various characters, Danny Aiello's character, and then Nicolas Cage's character, and therein lies the essence of the romantic triangle, as it were, because she is engaged to one man, but she seems to have an attraction to the brother of such man. And so that forms the essential basis for what happens within that set of characters and also in the periphery surrounding them, because, as I say, she's also a member of a family, this Italian-American family living in New York, and we follow also the stories of the patriarch and the matriarch, the mother and father, and what it is they go through each individually, how their relationship is like now, what they are doing each individually at the moment, how their relationship might be seen to be in a certain perhaps precarious state or nature due to the side story of the father and what he is doing outside of the family, and he thinks that no one knows, but in fact people are perhaps more suspecting than he might realize. And so this leads into a really lovely, multi-layered, multi-generational story, focusing in on this family, but also focusing in on the nature of relationships, the nature of marriage, the nature of marriage versus desire, and also the focusing in on characters and fidelity and infidelity, and emotion, argument, and the core, true, and perhaps spiritually harmonious nature that is inherent in the core concept or anchor that is family. There might be some hiccups along the way. In fact, there might be a lot of hiccups. There might be some great waves of tumult that might occur between or among family members. But there seems also ultimately to be this core sense of loyalty and love and bond between and among family. And there's something very charming and warm about that. But it is also a drama, and we see the nature of relationships, and we see how perhaps there might be this conceit or hypothesis or thesis posited about how or why people act the way they do as we get older. Do we remain faithful, or perhaps that faithfulness is tested when temptation is sought or seen elsewhere? And are those associations made directly due to the concept of a human desire and emotion, or perhaps is there something akin to, say, a fear of death and the close immediacy of the impending mortality of all who live on this earth? And so therefore this is to say that this is a comedy, a beautifully constructed romantic comedy, but it is also, I think, a really smart and carefully worded and constructed and nuanced exploration of age, of aging, of love and manners as people age, and various points along the way. So at points of youth and at various stages going up the generational ladder, as it were. And associated with that is the concept of death. But it is not portrayed in a very dour and dark and heavy manner, but it is portrayed in a matter-of-fact, slice-of-life, comedic toned type of way that keeps the proceedings fresh and honest, but also keeps them very accessible and fun to engage with. That's one of the things I think that's great about this film too, is that while it maintains this level of drama, there is always a sense of fun and engagement that makes this film very approachable and thus very charming. To top that, of course, or not top it, but to associate with that or to accompany that, we have wonderfully artistic applications of the parallels made to opera, in particular Puccini and La Bohème. And we see also the parallels made in the dramatic structure. A lot is made in the story itself about opera and Lincoln Center, and how one of the characters in particular, played by Nicolas Cage, who really loves opera, and how this is in a way a kind of bridge or a means of getting to know the characters, and for certain characters to become further intimately involved with each other. So it plays a key role in terms of the narrative, but it also plays a key role in terms of the presentation of drama, because one of the things that can be said, I think, about this film is it employs musical motifs and tones that are associated with opera. It also has at its dramatic core a aesthetic of presentation that could be said to be akin to the nature of opera and the presentation of emotions and the soul of a character, if you will. These are characters in this film that are operating quite magnificently on epic levels of emotional expression. And there are some scenes here that reach levels that just are through the roof. Splendid and magnificent and epic in that nature. And so I think a lot has been said, quite reasonably so, about the ties, at least in the sense of a dramatic presentation, and the character presentation links to a sensibility that can be found in the opera of Puccini, for example, in particular La Bohème. And I think we can also point to the sincerity and the honest goodwill and good-natured sensibilities that are accompanying all the performances here. This is a film that is also great in terms of the performance. Each character and each actor inhabits his or her character with such grace and humility, and also honesty, and a truth that makes the film universal, which I absolutely love. This is a film that, as I say, is focusing in on a particular Italian-American family in this part of the world, New York. And so in many ways, it is very much a reflection a beautiful reflection of the culture and the family style and way, from right down to the decor in the background, to the way that the pictures hang on the wall, to the importance of food and the kitchen becomes a very key place in the house, not just in terms of this presentation of the characterizations, but also vis-a-vis the plot. And so, but these are, I think, levels that really define the cultural landscape of the film that we see through the narrative conduit of the focus on this Italian-American family in New York. But at the same time, as I was trying to hint at earlier, this is a film that is also very, very universal. And these are characters that are expressing feelings and moments and certain expressions of life that make the film accessible to anyone. And that's, I think, the great beauty and charm and brilliance of a film like Moonstruck, how it can capture an essence of something that can be understood by so many people and still at the same time retain its sense of being in a certain place and time. Brooklyn, New York in the 1980s. So, and as I say, at its heart, we have these wonderful performances. Cher, Danny Aiello, and Nicolas Cage. What a great set of performances. And Cher in particular, she is carrying a lot in terms of the focus on her and on her character in this film. And the way she portrays the arc, which is, as I say, reaching a lot of emotional highs and lows, also creating this track which is very much akin to a fairy tale or Cinderella type of storytelling that is also pinned down very nicely with these real world or real life details that emerge either directly or in the periphery. So overall, it is a remarkable performance, and I think we follow her very sincerely along the way. And of course, as I mentioned, there was the great Danny Aiello and the great Nicolas Cage in a quirky and odd and a brilliantly odd and sincere performance of a character. Great stuff. And then Olympia Dukakis and Vincent Gardenia. Wow, this is we can sense the warmth and we can sense the tenderness and we can also sense the anxiety and the panic and the sense of the comic, but also the tragic, which is all enveloped, and you can feel so much of the weight of their relationship that has spanned many, many years, and it seems to be perhaps in some ways in trouble on the one hand, but we see how that can be overcome, if at all, throughout the film. But in any event, as far as the performances go, they are touching and lovely and funny and beautiful. And so these are a wonderful set of characters played brilliantly by these performers and actors in a film that is warm and charming and true. This is the film Moonstruck. And with that, we have the great presentation by the Criterion Collection here, which is purported to be based off of a 4K digital restoration of the film, approved by director Norman Jewison himself. It looks great, it sounds great, and I'm so happy that we have this film in the Criterion Collection as it is. Another film by Norman Jewison, so wonderful edition. Again, it's spine number 1056. But that's not all, because we also have a commentary track. This is a commentary track that is already existing. This is from, according to materials, 1998. It features Norman Jewison, Cher, and writer John Patrick Shanley. And it's one of these commentaries where they aren't in the same room, but maybe they're recorded separately and then edited together to form one long commentary track that will accompany as an optional soundtrack the film when you play it. And it's great. It's absolutely great. We get Cher's comments, and she's focusing in on the performance, in particular her performance. But to her credit, she's also I think she's very honest about her performance. She gives some great anecdotes about specific episodes of the film, and she is she's very charming in her commentary, and that's great to hear. There's also John Patrick Shanley, and he gives great insight into what he was inspired by when trying to write this story, the Italian-American details of the family life, and how this is tied into his own childhood and upbringing, and what he saw as being central themes or character developments that were very important to him to be seen through the film. And he also shows how the story had developed over time into what ultimately became the film Moonstruck, including some details about the title, and also some details about what could have been a different ending for the film than what we eventually got, and other interesting tidbits of information. Very, very interesting indeed. So that's the portion of the commentary track from writer Shanley. And then we have the portion which is from Norman Jewison himself, and this is great. He speaks about certain anecdotes of filming, working with the actors, working with the material, and his own insights and his own approach and philosophy to the creation of this work. He also, in an interesting moment of the commentary, he actually gives a meta comment about commentary tracks themselves, and he talks about how the recollection many years after the fact of what happened on a film production, given by various points of view, the various actors and crew members and participants who were, let's say, involved with Moonstruck, and then 10 years later or 20 years later they come together, or they give interviews or comments about the film. Norman Jewison says something interesting about how that has a Rashomon-like effect, how people can be coming together years after the fact, remembering an incident or production, but they could all remember it in a different way. And so it's interesting to see how maybe one's recollection might not necessarily fit with that of another person's recollection. So I thought that was an interesting meta comment on commentary tracks and these making of documentaries in an interesting way. Very insightful. So that is the Norman Jewison component of the great commentary track. Again, it's pre-existing, but it's wonderful to have a commentary track. I'm a big fan of commentary tracks, and this one is great. So that's the already existing commentary track as included here. But that's not all, because then we also get a 2013, AFI, American Film Institute, AFI Night at the Movies screening or showing of the film Moonstruck in 2013, and Leonard Maltin was there, and it was in front of an audience, and there was a podium on the stage. Leonard Maltin came on to introduce Cher, and Cher was there in person at this audience to give some comments to the film regarding the film Moonstruck. It's approximately 11 minutes. It is great. Absolutely great. It's always wonderful to hear Cher talk about her experiences with this film. And she's very energetic, and she's very enthusiastic about the film. And she should be, because it's great work, and she should be proud of it, and she is. And it's wonderful, therefore, from that perspective, to get her comments like this. So this is worth checking out if you haven't already. This is the introduction by Cher from 2013. But that's not all, because then we get a 2020 new interview with the writers, John Patrick Shanley. And this is approximately 16 minutes. And this is great stuff, because John Patrick Shanley talks to us about his career and his upbringing in childhood, and also about how he was very much into writing from an early age. And it wasn't just writing in an academic setting in school, but it was also based a lot on storytelling that was very much part of the fabric of his family life, and the life of his community. He makes mention of the notion of the BS artist, and how the BS artist is in many ways a great storyteller. And so that is part of his own journey. And he talks also about the specifics of the twists and turns of his own professional journey leading up to his work that eventually became the film, or the basis for the film Moonstruck. And so wonderful commentary from John Patrick Shanley here in this interview. Again, 16 minutes from 2020. So another interview well worth checking out. But that's not all, because then we get another 2020 interview with Stefano Albertini. And he is a cinema and music expert, and here he is giving us some great comments about Puccini and La Bohème, and some brief biographical information about Puccini himself, and what the concerns were and what the thematic thrust was of the opera La Bohème, and how it was in many ways maybe a celebration or a look back on youth, and the struggles of youth, and how those themes can be said to be tied to the thematic structure of the film Moonstruck, not just in terms of how the opera itself operates in the context of the story and the plot and narrative, but also in terms of a thematic core, and how the movie Moonstruck seems to be a film talking about generations and talking about looking back, or maybe it's looking at certain stages of generational family. And one stage is at a certain moment of youth, can we say, and how that could be associated with the opera in that way. Whereas if we go up the generational ladder, then we can see characters seemingly wanting to look back on their youth, or maybe dealing with the passage of time and how that affects their relationships, and so on and so forth. And so this and other means are ways that Albertini is suggesting, I think very, very convincingly, of the thematic and core connections that can be made between La Bohème and Moonstruck. So 12-minute interview, well worth it, and very enlightening. Please check it out if you can. But then continuing on, we have more supplements. We have a 1987 interview with Norman Jewison, a one-on-one interview with him, a 33-minute interview. This is from Canadian television, City Lights. Once again, City Lights is featured on a Criterion Blu-ray. It's wonderful. And here we have Norman Jewison talking about Academy Award nominations, and talking about his admiration for John Huston, and also talking about other aspects of the Academy Awards. There was one instance where Norman Jewison actually was producing the Academy Awards, and this is during the moment in history that Ronald Reagan, there was the attempted assassination on Ronald Reagan. And so this, he was talking about how he had to figure out how to produce the Academy Awards when you had this sudden, very terrible incident that happened, and how they were trying to deal with the situation, and what the people that he had to deal with, and that sort of thing. And so it's a very interesting set of anecdotes that he has about that particular part of his career. And he's also then asked about the film and the commercial and critical success of the film, working with Cher, working with Olympia Dukakis, and the like. A wonderful interview. Norman Jewison is it's so great to, he has one of those great voices, and it's very calm and soothing, and it's also very to the point, and very sharp, and he has always a lot of interesting things to say. And so it's great to have this one-on-one interview, City Lights, again, 33 minutes. But that's not all, because then we get a section of the supplements devoted to Today, the Today Show, the daytime show from the United States, and this is from 1987 as well. And so we have three little sub supplements in this section. One is a 2-minute 30-second or so section devoted to an interview with Cher, a pre-taped interview, I should say, and then there's another section about 4 minutes or so talking about a little bit of background of the film and the shooting of the film and the director Jewison, and also focusing a little bit on Nicolas Cage and some interview comments that he has. And then there is that's also a pre-taped segment, and then there's a third supplement here, which is an in-studio interview that Jane Pauley conducted with Olympia Dukakis and Vincent Gardenia. This is approximately 6 minutes, and it's really great to hear the questions asked and the comments given about Olympia Dukakis and her family, and also Vincent Gardenia, and how he really likes the portrayal of this film and his own background. And like, there's actually a very charming moment too, where Olympia Dukakis is actually so excited about talking. She actually goes into specific details and about the end of the film, etc. And so Jane Pauley, very politely, or maybe not so politely, I'm not sure, she cuts her off and goes to a commercial break, and that essentially ends this particular component. So it's very charming in that way. But the point here is that it's wonderful to hear Olympia Dukakis talk about the role in the film, and also to hear Vincent Gardenia do the same. So great stuff. So please check that out if you can. Again, from 1987. But that's not all, because then we get an AFI 100 Years, 100 Passions 2002 interview with Danny Aiello. Approximately 11 minutes. This is great because he speaks about where he was in his career by the time, or at the time, that Moonstruck came along. He also talks about the character and how he felt, honest opinions about it. He talks about working with Norman Jewison and how rewarding it was. He also talked about how this was an Italian-American depiction of life, and so he really admired and respected that very much. And he also talked about his introduction to opera, which is great to hear, La Bohème, etc. So a lot of great stuff in this 11-minute interview with Danny Aiello. But that's not all, because then we get also an audio seminar discussion, the Harold Lloyd Master Seminar audio from 1989 with John Patrick Shanley again. And this is approximately 36 minutes. He's here. This is an AFI seminar, so he's speaking with a moderator and in front of a crowd. And so at the latter half of it, we hear him taking questions from an audience. But he's given the opportunity to get into very specific detail about his upbringing, his education, and he also served in the military for a little bit. And he talked about specific aspects of his education and how he ended up becoming a writer and a professional writer, and then how he ended up being involved in films. And so, and then he talks, I think, very specifically about other projects as well as Moonstruck. So this is a great in-depth feel. And it's consistent with some of the comments that we already received from Shanley in other supplements, but it goes into more detail. It goes into other avenues of anecdotal information, and then he also takes questions from an audience. So this is another great one to listen to. So please check it out if you can. Shanley is so well spoken, and he's very charming, and the audience is also very receptive, and so it's a lovely time. So please check out or listen to the audio if you can. It's 36 minutes, again, from 1989. And then that's not all, because we still get more great stuff. We get some supplements from 2006 from a previous release of the film. And so this is, the first one is a 25-minute making of documentary called At the Heart of an Italian Family. And we get a number of the participants and their interviews about the film and the filmmaking and the pre-production process, then the production process, the working with the actors, some incidents or some episodes on set, and also what happened after the film was finished and the critical success that it also met. It was a very popular film as well, and also its success at the Academy Awards, and what that meant for people that were recipients of the awards, like Olympia Dukakis, etc. So great documentary to have. And then also from 2006, as a kind of supplement or associated with that 2006 documentary, we have a 6-minute piece called "The Music of Moonstruck," and this is also focusing on Norman Jewison and John Patrick Shanley, and also the composer Dick Hyman, and they're talking about the importance of the score and music and opera and Puccini. And Dick Hyman has a really clever way of describing it. He says it was a lovely thing to have been able to collaborate with Puccini. And he says that partly in jest, of course, but also it's very true, because the music of Puccini and La Bohème is very much integrated into this film, and it becomes a musical motif reliance that is integral to the plot and also very much consistent with the core soul of the film. And so it's great, therefore, to get these comments like this in this 2006 supplement. So, Music of Moonstruck. And then to end, we have a great trailer of the film that is included. Then we have this great Blu-ray presentation, and I've already taken the liberty of bringing out the leaflet or the insert that was found inside, just for your information if you're interested. This is the inside of the Blu-ray, so we have a continuation of a photo or a motif involving the character played by Cher, and then we have this continuation of the photo motif in the fold-out here. It's a fold-out, so it's not a stapled booklet, unfortunately, but it's still great, of course, because it has a wonderful essay by Emily VanDerWerff, and this is Life in the In-Between. A wonderful essay. I'm a big fan of the essays, as some of you may know, and this is another great one. It balances perfectly a discussion about Norman Jewison, about the build-up to the production of the film, and also thematic concerns that are involved with the film itself and the story and the plot. So, Life in the In-Between, another great essay. Please check it out if you can. It's well written and to the point and well organized. So, great job, and I loved it very much. So, but that was the essay there. And with that, this is the Blu-ray release by the Criterion Collection at spine number 1056 of the film Moonstruck. Another wonderful addition to the Criterion Collection. It's great to see this film, a Norman Jewison directed film that was very popular and still is. And it's a Hollywood film, and it was a film that was also very much popular at award season in its day, and it still has a resonance and charm and wit and lovely, earnest, caring nature that is very much at play when you watch it, but also it serves as a reminder of a bygone era, as it were, New York during this time. What a charming place, and what a charming family, and what a charming set of characters that are alive and full of energy and life and vigor and emotion in this world that we see here in this film, which is the film Moonstruck. Okay, my friends, so that's it for now. And so until we meet again, please be happy and healthy and well, and please keep on watching a lot of great, great movies. Thank you so much, as always, for your time. Stay strong, stay safe, and cheers.